Okay, hello everyone. So today we're going to learn about support vector machines. So support vector machine is a classifier algorithm. Before learning about support vector machine, we'll learn about what is support vector classifier. So for that, we'll take one example. Let's have, just imagine we took a bunch of mice and we took the mass of everyone. So we can say that the red dots represents the mice which are not obese, which are not fat enough. The green one says that they are obese. Now, based on the observation, we can pick a threshold in between any of the two. Like this will be a proper boundary, which will tell that if the weight is below that, it's not gonna be obese. If the weight is above there, it's gonna be obese. Now, what the problem with? Okay, this looks cool enough, but what's the problem with this particular threshold value is? Imagine I get a new observation. Imagine we get a new observation which is right of the threshold. We classified it as not obese. We took an observation which is left of it, which is right of it, we took it as obese. As simple. But the problem is, now imagine this particular point. Because of this model, we are going to classify it as obese. But you can see that the particular point, the black point, is more closer to the not obese points. So for in this particular case, the the particular model will fail. It means the threshold value, that this particular threshold line that you made, is not going to be valid. But we have to make something, like make it more proper. So what we do, we take the, what is this? Okay. So what we do, we focus on the edge of the cluster. Like we'll take the extreme points of both the clusters, like which are very close to each other, but they're differently classified. So these are the 2 points. So what we do, we take the average of it. What we do, we take the average of it, we'll get the midpoint, and then we'll use that as a threshold. So that sounds like, it sounds more sensible that you're taking the endpoints and making a threshold line in between. So now again, we'll take the same point for the previous threshold point. for the previous threshold point, this point has been classified as obese, but now because of the new threshold point, it's being classified as not obese, because this point is more closer to the points which are not obese as compared to the points which are obese. So this sounds like fine enough. Now, there are some terminologies in that. The shortest distance between the observation and the threshold is called the margin. So the margin is the distance between the particular threshold that you have and the shortest distance between the between the margin and the first observation that you can get either from the obese or the most not obese. So any other observation, that's what you call a margin. So what you try to do is you try to maximize the margin as much as possible so that your model will be as accurate. As you can see, if what we do, if we just move this particular line a bit to the left, now the margin for not obese, sorry, the margin for obese is increased way too much, and the margin for not obese is decreased. And what we have exactly have to do, we have to expand the margin from both sides as much as possible. So for this particular case, if we move it to the left, the margin with the not obese category is reduced, and the same thing if we move it to the right, the margin from the obese category will be less. So what we do, we make the best one, which is the average of both the twos. Now this particular case, in which we take the edge points and we find the maximum margin and we classify the points in between that, that's what we call a maximum margin classifier. Okay, that is what maximum margin classifier is. Now the only problem with this particular classifier is it's really sensitive to outliers. Just imagine this particular case in which the in this particular case, the edge point of not obese is here, and the edge point of the closest point for obese is here. So you can see, if we'll take the same concept of getting the edge points of the obese and the not obese, your classifier will be somewhere in between this. So what we did is we applied the same algorithm, but because of the outlier, just one outlier, our classifier has gone crazy because it's now it's not going to work properly. So now what we exactly we can do? So as you can see, if you use this particular this particular classifier, it's gonna guess most of the answers as wrong, because if you'll have this some point here, it will guess it as not obese. But as you can see that the most it's more closer to the points which are obese, but not it is classifying it as not obese because of because of only one outlier. Okay, so what we do is we allow misclassification. We try to make it as average so that we will allow a bit of misclassifications, that uh, so that on the training data it misclassifies, but with that trade-off, what you get is the general model that you get. Okay. Yeah. So the trade that you get is the model that you create is of high accurate only because you're allowing some of the misclassifications. And how we do the misclassification is, just imagine we just ignore this point. Just imagine we ignored this point. I'm not telling you how. I'll tell you later how we like how we exactly misclassify the stuff. Just imagine we ignored this point. Then the edge points are this and this point for the OB and not OBs, and this for the OBs. Now what happens is, when you try the same algorithm for this particular points, you'll get a classifier in between these points, which looks like a better classifier as compared to when we are doing considering this as the edge points, this particular point. So that's how, just using a misclassification of one point, we made our model more accurate than what it was previously. So how we do the misclassification? Now, for misclassification, we have to use something called bias variance trade-off. So I'll not tell you in detail what is bias variance trade-off is, but just to let you know, bias, what is the answer, what is the meaning of bias and variance, I'll tell you. Bias means how accurate your model is on the training data. Like when you had your training data and you trained your model, how accurate it is on exactly your training data. So you try to make it low bias, but making it low bias can go to overfitting. As I told you, if you have training data and your model is completely fitted on the training data, it's not going to be really useful for your outside world, because it's so much fitted in the training data that it cannot guess the answer of the like unknown data properly. So that's what bias is. Bias tells you how accurate your model is on the training data, and variance is how accurate it is on the testing, like unknown data. So we try to increase the bias. Increase the bias means the accuracy is a bit low on the training data, so that we reduce the variance, that the accuracy for the unknown data are less. Okay, so that's what exactly a trade-off is. So this is what exact trade-off is. Now, what happens is, if we are not taking strictly between, we're not taking strictly the edge points. We are just using some misclassifications, some misclassification of 1 or 2 points, so that we try to improve, increase our we increase our bias, which is the what is that? Which is the ac accuracy in the training data. Means we are making our model a bit less accurate on the training data, so that we'll get less variance. It means it's more accurate on the testing data, like other unknown data. So when we use that particular function, that particular trick, and then we take two edge points, and just like we misclassified this and we took these two as edge points, then the margin that you got by using those two edge points is called as, like the margin that you get for all those two endpoints is called as a soft margin. Okay, what happened? Okay, now this is a soft margin. Now How we exactly find out which one is a soft margin? Because we can't guess that, okay, fine. We can see that this particular point can be ignored and we can take this and we have a best margin. But when you're training it to the model can just see and get the answer. He has to have some kind of an algorithm. Then what you do is it goes for cross-validation techniques. It tries and find out the bias for all the combinations, like for this one and this one, this one and this one. For each and every point, it will have the relationship between all the points which have, and it will find the threshold for each and every value, each and every combination of every point. Using that, when it tried out for the whole number of points which is there on the line, it will get the best fit line, like the best classifier, and then the model will say, after checking all the points which is there on the model, I got a proper point or a proper classifier, which you can see. Now, as I told you, it uses cross-validation, and I told you what is cross-validation is. It just takes what the whole data set is divided into some folds. Like if it's a k-fold cross-validation, divided into folds. We take the training data, we take the testing data, we do it each and every time. So like we do it as number of times as you give the number of k. If k is 5, then we divide the training data into what, 5 slabs. We take 4 as the training data and 1 as testing, and then we change the testing slab every iteration. We change the testing slab so that each and every point is 4 times in a training side and 1 time on the testing side. That's how cross validation works. So this particular model will use the cross validation to find the best fit line in between, like the best classifier for the soft classification, the soft margin, as you can see. Okay, now, but what the topic is a support vector classifier. So when we're using a soft margin classifier, that's what we call a soft vector classifier. As but when the classes started, I told you what you're going to learn about support vector machine. This is a support vector classifier. Till now, whatever I told you is everything about something. Come. With the chat box. Okay, why the fuck I can't see my chat box? Oh. Yes, bro, I'm recording the lecture. Don't worry. Okay. So this is that's how a support vector classifier works. So till now, whatever I taught you is a support vector classifier, not support vector machine. Now, let's do for support vector machine. Okay. Before that, till now, whatever I taught you is support vector classifier on a single dimension. It can be double dimension. So imagine the same mass of the mice and the height, and we have to classify it. So what support vector classifier will do in that particular case, we have a single dimension. So the classifier or the classifier line is just a point, like a threshold point, so that left of it is another is classified as one thing and the right of it is classified as another thing. But when it's a 2D line, when it's a 2D diagram, or when you have two particular functions or features, as you can see, then what the supported classifier will do, it will make a straight line. As you can see, if these points are not obese, these points are not obese, and these points are obese, the model will try to make a line which will classify the points as best as possible, so that if the point lies above that, it is one classification. If the point stays below that, it is different classification. As you can see, this is a particular line that they made, and now you can see there's one or two misclassifications here. Like this is a misclassification. The same thing happens. The cross validation will make sure that the model that you'll get is the best buyer, is the best variance model, so that when you'll use your model on the training data, so on the unknown data, it will work properly. Even if it's not properly, like it can go for some misclassification for make your model to work better on testing data. As you can see, this is your particular classification line. This is what we call a margin, like the distance between the classification point and the nearest edge. So all the points which are outside this blue dot are properly classified, and if it is inside that, it means it's misclassified, but we allow for misclassification only to make it more accurate. Okay, now what exactly we'll do in 3D diagram? As I told you, if it's a 1D, it's just a point. If it's a 2D, it's a line. If it's a 3D, as simple, they will make a plane to classify. As you can see in this particular diagram, it is x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis is perpendicular to the screen that you have, so that the big point shows that it's closer to the screen, and as the model, like all the points goes small, it means it's farther from the screen. So you can see a proper plane which is dividing the points in between two particular regions. So if the point lies above that, it's a different classification. If the point lies below that particular plane, it's a different classification. That's how support vector classifier works for 3D. Now, if it's a 4D dimension, no one knows how to make a 4D graph, but it will do it. The model will do it. Now the same thing happens. Now, the thing happens is everything is fine. Overlapping is like the case that tells here is overlapping is possible in support vector machine, so that the like what we are using. I'm not gonna give it. So the thing happens is by we use soft classification, like soft margin, so that it's not very prone to the outliers. So it's better for our model. So because it's soft classification, it can handle some overlapping also. As you can see, there are like 1 or 2 points which is misclassified. But our model is overall more accurate than the model which we would have made if we have considered these particular points, in which we didn't go for the misclassification of these points. So this is what happens. Now, just imagine we have to classify on support vector machines, support vector classification only, but we have this particular line. So this particular line tells the effectiveness of a drug, like how much drug you should take to be effective. So if you'll take less amounts of drug, like the drug is for a medical drug. If you take a less amount of drug, it's not going to be effective. If you take a ample amount of drug, it's effective. If you take way too much amount of drug, it's not effective. It's bad. So if you'll use the exact softmax classification, it's not going to work here, because you'll take any case, like any case you can try to take, it cannot classify your model in any way. You cannot classify your model in any way if you try the support vector classification here. So how we do it? So what exactly we do is, now for this particular cases, we use support vector machines. Support vector machine will do what? It's gonna make your data, take your data and move it to what? Extra dimensions. Like it will provide more dimensions to your data. I will see in the example how exactly dimensions are added. Now just imagine we have a y-axis. Now this time we have just 1D data, like single dimension data. Now just imagine we have a y-axis. And what we're gonna do, for each and every point of x, we're gonna find x square and put it on y. So if you'll see, as you can see, all the points are considered as x, y, x. We just do the x squaration. So we can see now we have a 2D data. Now we have a 2D data. Now this particular, like we transformed our 1D diagram to a 2D diagram. It means we are just providing it, we're just providing it more dimensions. Stop it, please. We are providing more dimensions to your data. So now if you try to support vector classification here, it's possible now. Just imagine we'll again have a single line which is classifying your data properly, but it was not possible when it was on a single dimension. So we made it double dimension and then we classified it. That's what a support vector machine is. Support vector machine is equal to increasing the dimensions of your data plus support vector classification. That's what a support vector machine is. As simple as that. That is what support vector classifier is. As you can see, if we'll have some in any point on this particular dosage, we'll square it. We'll get to know that okay, this point lies above the particular line. It means it's not actually like the what the effect of the drug is not good, and if the point is below this particular line, it means the effect of the drug is good enough. It's working. Now, what I told you, the exact steps of support vector machine is starting with a relatively low dimension, moving it to a higher dimension, and then applying the support vector classifier. Now, if you'll ask me, like how you find out like it's gonna be x square only,
Hello?
it can't be. Yeah, bro.
Hello?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
Say.
so like I have a doubt. So if you use the formula y is equal to x square, it could have been anything like y is equal to x cube
Yeah,
or
I was
power
gonna
4.
say that only.
How do we know which one to? Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we can use any formula, like it's gonna be x cube or root x or whatever it can be. How can we just define that it's x square only? So you do not have to think much about that, like which formula that you have to use. For that, there's one particular function which is known as SVM kernels. It does the work for you. It will check for each and every higher dimension stuff, and it will make you the best classification for your model. Now there are like three different kinds of, as I can say, why not doses of 3? Why not pi by 4 into doses, root of doses, or something like that? So what we use is we use a kernel which systematically find out your model's higher dimensions and find the support vector classifier. And the support vector classifier which classify the model the best will be the answer. Now, what kind of kernels are there? There are like exactly three kind of kernels. One is a linear kernel, which makes sure that your data is linear. It's not going to increase your linearity of the data. Second is a polynomial kernel. Polynomial kernel will make your data from, like, polynomial kernel has a dimension d. D is the power of the power of your square, like the function that you have. So if the d is 1, it means x. If d is 2, x square. If d is 3, x cube. So similarly, this particular function that we used, in which we made that x is equal to, sorry, y is equal to x square, it's a polynomial kernel. It can be x cube, it can be x to the power 4, x to the power 5, to whatever it can be. There's one more which is really commonly used, and that is called radial basis kernel. What radial basis kernel will do, it's gonna make your data, take your data and transform it to infinite dimensions. Like it'll try from the 0 and it'll try to shift it into infinite dimensions, and then it will give you a result on the basis of that. So radial basis kernels are the best one, because it's gonna try it on all the dimensions that is possible, literally infinite, and then you'll get your answers. Now, what exactly happens is the current what I'm telling is, as I told you, in this particular line, what we did is we took the x point, we find the x square, and then we classify. But just to tell you, the kernel doesn't exactly transform your data. The data is gonna be a single dimension data only. The kernel will just find the relationship between each and every point with their corresponding points if the dimensions are higher. If the dimension is 2, it will just find the correlation. It's not gonna it's not gonna transform your data. It's just gonna check if the data has been transformed, what is the relation. It's not exactly gonna transform. So what is the benefit of that is, so it's not gonna be computationally heavy on your PC. Just imagine you have 10, what's going on? So you have like tens of millions of data and you're trying support vector machines. Now the RBF has to transform it to like five dimensions. So for each and every data, it's transforming it to 5 dimensions. It's computationally heavy. So what kernel does is it's just gonna find the relationships. It's not gonna change your data at all. So that's what a kernel is good for, and that's what you call a kernel trick. So there's one more terminology, kernel trick. What kernel trick will do, it will just find, I'll show you. So for each and every point, it will find the relationship of each and every point with another points, just to find what it will behave if the dimensions are higher. It's not gonna, I'm telling again, it's not gonna change the dimension. It's just gonna check what would have happened if the dimension would have increased. It's not gonna really do it. So that's what I call a kernel trick. So that's what completely, what is that? What is this is behind support vector machines. So again from the starting, I'll tell you. I'll forward the video and the notebook also. So support vector classifier just tries to classify the points on soft margins. Now, support vector classifier are mostly like really good in cases when there are outliers when there are outliers or when there are like overlappings and all. Support vector machines are stuff in between, in the cases when please stop. Cases when you have a linear data or whatever degree of data and you cannot directly apply the support vector classification. So what we do is we increase the dimensions and then we try to apply the support vector classification. And for whatever dimensions that we got, the support vector classification fire is the best one. We got it as answer. That's what a support vector machine does. So in short, if you want to remember what is support vector machine, so support vector machine is equal to increasing the dimension of your data plus the support vector classification. That is what a support vector machine does. How it does this? Using the using the kernel functions. 3 types of kernel functions: linear, polynomial, and radial basis. Linear will not going to increase the linearity of the data. It's just not going to increase the degree of data. It just tries to best fit in the particular line only. Polynomial will try to increase the degree of the data, like from x to x squared to x cube, x power 4 to whatever. Radial basis function will try to increase the dimensions of our data. If it's a 1D, it's going to try for 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, till infinite, till whatever time it will going to get for the best fit. It's not exactly going to go to infinite. For that also, like as I said, in this one of the starting classes I taught you about gradient descent, how you find out the exact point, like the exact global minima without exactly going to the end of the world, like trying to tell infinite. It's not going to be computationally possible. So they use gradient descent for that to get the best one. So that is what a support vector machine is. Now we'll go for the coding part. How support vector machine is been very ignore the chats. So I'll show you how support vector machine is done on the coding part. Now again, I'm damn sure you're completely bored with the iris dataset, but I'm going to again use it. So we have the pandas and we use the sklearn dataset, import load iris. So load iris will have the same data, same target function, same column functions, and same each and everything which I told you in the last class. So the features names are sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. The targets are setosa, versicolor, and virginica. Now what we did is we make a data frame using the iris data and we provide the columns as iris features names. So we have the data set. So tf.hit, which is going to show the first 5. So we have the sepal width, petal length, and petal width. Now we make one more column, which is df.target. The target shows for all these 4 inputs what will what is the classification is. Like it is a what, setosa or a versicolor or virginica. Are you showing notebook? Yeah, I'm showing notebook and it's not visible. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry. Now you can see. I know you can see. Okay, now simple pandas PD, and from sklearn dataset we loaded the iris dataset. Again the same features names, the target names. We made a data frame. The data frame is right there. Now we made one more column, which is the target function. Now target function gives what is the exact output of it. Now we find out what is the target. We just see, just for like your own visualization, like what are the target functions if the target, what are all the outputs when the target function is 1, or when the target value is 1? What are the outputs when the target value is 2? What are the outputs when the target value is 3? I removed 3, so it's fine. Now we're gonna make one column instead of target 0, 1, 2. As you know, 0 stands for setosa, 1 stands for versicolor, 3 stands for virginica. Just to make it look more beautiful, we need one more column, which is gonna, instead of writing in the number, it's gonna exactly say the name, Setosa. So df.flower name is equal to df.target, the answer like do 012 dot apply. Apply functions will take the input from the particular column, which is df.target, and apply the lambda function and return the value. So df.target apply. So it will take lambda of x and the return will be iris of target names x. The target names is this particular list. So it's going to take for each and every row, it's going to take the target value, give it to the lambda function and return the output. So for it will take 0, get 0 went inside, it will find the iris target name x. So iris target name of 0 is Setosa. So Setosa is returned to this flower name. Similarly, it's going to happen for all the cases. So as you can see, now what we did is we divided our cases, we divided our data set into 3 different data sets, just to make it more beautiful again. df0, 1 and 2. df0 stands for all the cases in which the target is 0. df1 stands for all the cases in which the target is 1. df2 is all the cases in which the target is 2. Now we use the matplotlib pyplot to plot the graph. Now what we plotted is sepal length and sepal width of df0 and df1. Now Setosa, and we printed the Setosa in versicolor. You can see df of 0 and df of 1, sepal length and sepal width has been marked using color green as a marker plus and the color blue as a marker dot. As you can see this particular point, you can easily find out a particular line which can classify this. If you'll apply support vector machine, you can easily find out a particular line which can classify these 2 points. Simple. Now just imagine we'll try for any other, like instead sepal length and sepal width, we'll go for petal length and petal width. Now same for Setosa and versicolor, we tried for petal length and petal width. Now we can see it's more like very much classified. You can literally apply KNN classification here also. I'll tell you KNN classification what it is later time. So this is what the graph looks like for petal and spell trace. So what we do is we do the model selection, we train test split, we drop the 2 target function. When we have to train a model, we're going to train a model in sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width only. So target function, like a target column, and the flowering has been dropped. So this particular thing has been dropped. Now we use a train test. We use a train test split, get the output. Now the same thing that happens all the time. We use sklearn. Now this time the folder in which the support vector classifier is SVM. From sklearn.svm we imported the support vector classifier, which is SVC. We made an object of SVC. We provided the training data. As you can see, the independent values and the dependent values. The model has been fitted. We go for the model score. So most of the time you'll find out the model of support vector machines are really accurate. Like they're like most of the time they are like more than 90% accurate. So we trained our data on this. The model score that we got is 96%. Cool. Now we try to put one data by ourselves. We provided data, sepal width, sepal length, petal width, petal length, or whatever the range is. Like let me see. Okay, sepal length, sepal width. Okay. Sepal width, sepal length, petal width, petal length. We provided our own data. Like just to guess, like if we have this particular data, what would be the classification? So we give it to the model.predict function. The model that predicted that it's going to be 0. It means if this is a particular data that we provided for the machine to guess what the type of the flower is, it's going to guess it to 0. 0 stands for Setosa. So that's how a SVC works in coding and in theory. Now again, just for a small reminder, what is a support vector classifier? It just takes the data and classifies using soft margins, and that's what we call support vector classifier. What is support vector machine? That it's going to take your data, it's going to increase the dimensions only when it's needed. It's not going to like you're providing support vector machines, so each and every time the dimension has been increased. As this first example I showed you, if the data that you're providing exactly like that, so it's not going to increase the dimension. If it's possible for a support vector classifier to classify it without even increasing the dimensions, it's going to do it at that time only. If it's not possible to divide the point on divide the data on that particular degree or that particular dimension, then it will increase the dimensions, and then it will increase the dimensions and then try to classify. And how it tests the classification? On cross validation. Like it will try for many different combinations and it will give you the best one. So how we increase the dimension? three kernel functions that you have which increase the dimension: linear, polynomial, and radial bias. Linear will not increase the linearity, it's going to be on the single dimension data. Polynomial will increase the degree of the points, either it's x square, x cube, till whatever you'll get. And radial bias, which is the most famous one, which will increase the dimensions of your data for to 1D to 2D to 3D to 4D or whatever, infinite Ds. That's what a support vector machine is. So it's gonna be less than 1 minute, so the class will get stopped. If you have any questions, Slack or my phone, whatever, I'll upload these two functions also, these two particular videos and the notebook. Class over. Bye-bye. And I know if you all have any doubt,